Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today, and I want to thank everybody that's here and everyone that's here. This is kind of, I guess, new but not new concept to us. We're just going to do just a general support group meeting. We have some questions that were submitted online. And we also have, I'm sure you all came with questions as well. And if you didn't, I'm sure we'll spark new ones. So thank you everyone for joining us online. I'm going to switch the camera view now. And those of you joining us via Zoom or Facebook, please feel free to type in your questions via chat or in the comment section. Okay, we have a fancy new camera. So does anybody want to open the floor? Pressing questions? Otherwise, I got a list.
I'll open by making a comment.
Just one time. No. I don't think I will be over here. No, we should. There we go.
There it is. Okay. So just an update, I guess, on research, which Kathy, my wife, happened to find something through the Michael J. Fox Foundation just in the last day or so about a technology company in Switzerland, AC Immune is the name of the company, that was commissioned along with several other groups to try to find a way of scanning alpha-synuclein in the brain in live brains. In other words, up to now, we've had no way of knowing what's going on in the brain. We know the disease after the fact. When somebody passes away, they can study the brain and say, oh yeah, there's all this alpha-synuclein all over the place. But what about all the other stages and like how much alpha-synuclein gathers and collects, and where does it collect, and all that sort of thing. So this company just came out with a scanning technique that actually shows, and they showed examples. This is live people now. They actually showed a control with very little going on, and then somebody who had multiple system atrophy, which is Parkinsonism, a sort of very advanced stage. And it showed all kinds of stuff going on in various parts of the brain. So this is really what a lot of the research in this whole business has been for quite a while now, is to find biomarkers, ways of being able to place where the activity is for particular molecules that may be the offenders that are causing the trouble. In this case, alpha-synuclein in the case of Parkinson's, but it's a tau particle for Alzheimer's and various other particles for other things. If they can get a scan for that, then they can say, aha, let's take a scan earlier in people's lives and find out, okay, this is what's going on. Ooh, we've discovered something early on. They can also then, later on, when they start developing therapeutics, see whether the therapeutics are working. Is that stuff going away? So this is something, an extremely important step that's been taken. Very exciting time, in that regard. So that's new. I just want to announce that. In the way of hope, research is kind of our hope for the future. I thought that was really hopeful. And in fact, this same company, has developed 9 new treatments in the fairly recent times, 6 of which are already in clinical trials. And the other 3, they're sort of on the way. So this has made a big difference already, even though it's practically brand new technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have.
Did the article say anything? Is there how many people do have Parkinson's in Switzerland, or is there a certain region in Switzerland where
No, this technology is so new. Literally, in the last couple of days, it's come out. What they would do next is what you're suggesting. Let's do a cross section of the population, because everybody gathers a certain amount of alpha-synuclein or other plaque, other particles in their brain as you age. So there's a certain amount of that going on. What's the difference between Parkinson's and a normal person is that Parkinson's gathers a whole bunch and kills a whole bunch of neurons within the brain. But they haven't done those kind of baseline studies yet because they just got this technology. But that's exactly what they would do. They go out and start testing a wide variety of people in the population, find out what the different stages are of buildup of problems. This particular one is for alpha-synuclein, but I'm sure they're going to develop technologies for tau particles and other things for other brain diseases. So it's just getting started. But good question.
So based.
what was your Where did you find this article?
So, yeah. So, kind of going off of the research, we're talking about last meeting, I guess I'll kick us off. Has anyone talked to whoever you're here for, whether it's you, family member, spouse, who you care for with Parkinson's, talked about DBS any further? If you missed the last meeting, or you're new, we had a speaker come in about deep brain stimulation. So I think we had a lot of questions. I mean, I had to cut us off, which I felt bad about, but they were kind of cleaning up around us already. But anybody want to add anything on that or talk about it at all?
Well, my husband has advanced Parkinson's, and I asked his doctor, his neurologist last week, if John would be a candidate.
Mm.
And he said there's several reasons, because always it's, I think he said it wasn't doing anything for walking. Is that possible? When did we figure out that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said it wasn't doing anything for that. And he said that at a fast stage, it can create a lot of problems because it would have to be adjusted just so.
Yeah. I know Cedric said that the gait issues for him just happened to be something that happened. It wasn't something they said actually, was helped by the DBS system. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about? Like I said, I got a list, so all you got to do is give me reason to start digging in. Okay, I can start on the list. So we had some questions submitted, and this person has been a longtime member, but they have there's sub questions as well. So toe/foot cramping is a typical dystonia of Parkinson's. What do you do to relieve discomfort? Does anybody have any tips or tricks with that?
I cramp every morning when I get up, my legs cramp, it hurts a lot. So I just have to grab it and squeeze it real hard until it goes away. But that's part of Parkinson's dystonia, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips other than the squeezing that helps get rid of it?
I think since I started doing some exercises in bed, like the kicking and the lifting of the legs, lifting the legs to extremes. What do you call it? Flexing, flexing it to tipping it, flexing it quite a bit. It helps before it cramps.
Okay.
And then it doesn't cramp. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I've heard the socks with the individual toes helps. I've heard some tips with that. The rolling it through and the foot has also helped. So and that's fine.
I think we should all get socks with individual toes. We can wear them to the. Do you? We can wear it to the meeting. Are we all on board with that? Wyatt, would you wear them with me? Yeah, there we go. We can get them branded.
I think right there at the deep pressure also.
Okay. So as therapists, do you see like I know that athletes use like the lacrosse ball or the tennis ball. Do you think like rolling on that would help at all, or?
Absolutely. I absolutely think.
Okay.
I've not used it personally, or I don't think they use it personally. No, but they absolutely, it's giving the same motion
Okay.
that we're talking about.
So the sub question after that is, if you've had Botox injections, did that help? I'd never heard of that before. And is there a type or brand of shoes that you like? Like I said, there's a lot of questions. She said some people find that hard-soled leather shoes give more support, or you may have an insert/orthotic that helps. Does anyone? Oh, my own tip is avoid Crocs, flip-flops, and slippers. Has anybody tried Botox in the foot? I had never heard of that before.
dystonia.
Yeah, I've never heard it in the foot though.
Dystonia in the foot, absolutely.
Really?
I mean, yeah, she didn't describe how bad it really is. I mean, her leg gets cramped, that's pretty common, but her foot will go into this, I mean, just contort completely sideways.
Mm.
And this horrible, I mean, the muscles and everything else are just like stretched to absolute max, and she's in really bad pain.
So what is the
And-
dystonia stand?
Dystonia? Well, just contraction of muscles, uncontrolled. So it's also a motor dysfunction, I guess you could say. But in this case, in the case of dystonia, it's just a severe contraction of muscles that you can't control. And I'd be interested in seeing what works. I was thinking maybe heat or something. I tried, massaging and doing all sorts of things, and it eventually did go away. But it's just a long process, a very painful process. So if anybody has any ideas on that, I'm sure would be great.
I think with the massage, what you did was the deep pressure, which is good. I don't know that I would use deep. Angie, what do you think?
I have not seen the research behind it, but certainly it's
Yeah, so we could do some research.
Does anybody have any shoes that they just can't live without? Okay.
If you had a comment from Facebook or Zoom, I know we have
Oh.
some great resources out there that Nathan or somebody might be able to interject as well.
If I can find my Facebook, there we go. No comments thus far. Nathan, do you have any comments on Facebook of shoes or anything else? Feel free to type it into the chat.
Well, while you're waiting on that, I had a question. I wonder if it would be helpful before you ever got out of bed to do ankle pumps, things like that, to get circulation going. Would that help before you got out of bed? That we used to do that with my mom, and it would make things a lot better.
Oh, Nathan responded via text. Okay. Nathan said no comments here. Thank you for your help, Nathan. So I guess another question, taking meds on time, especially carbidopa, I'm sorry, I can't talk today. I've been having issues all day long, and levodopa is important to get most benefit from the drugs. So does anybody have a schedule that works best for them? Or a reminder system? Or an app? Yeah, an app's a good idea.
I use MedSafe.
Okay.
I like it very much, and I really can't stress enough how taking the meds on time is important. And have a schedule. You know what, I don't push that quite as much as I do taking them on time. And I said, that's a little harder to do, and you get it all together. But if you know you're taking one at 9, you're taking one at 1. Dr. Morgan seemed to think that was very important. Sometimes he's never said anything about meals per se. And so I think that is works for us, and when you can take it. The MedSafe.
MedSafe?
I think that's it.
MedSafe, a blue app for those that missed that.
And it's real cute. I mean, if you don't take it, it kind of jingles, like you didn't take your pills. It reminds you to take your pills. Now, that being said, I do depend on it. Why? Do you depend on it? But it is a good one.
Yeah, we figured that to be about every 4 hours or so.
And that's the setup of the doctor.
Or
pausing at all, and that just realizes, oh, I'm taking that medicine. Right? That's another fact. And we've got the whole, so that's help, that's work for us. Somebody, you need to find something that works for you.
Sounds like you have a system and then also a fail safe for it as a backup, which I think is probably important.
Which would really help, like, I mean, doing a meeting like this, and you Bucky helped me with that, because you had, I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but she wears those cute little earphones. I can't wear those. I don't have them with me now. Do you use them?
No, well, right now, if that's not my doing since he's in the provision. But what I wanted to know is, I think Kathleen, you told me that you need to take this carbidopa either 30 minutes before you eat or an hour and a half after you eat. Is that correct?
That's what I was told, because I was protein. Well, if you're really big, lot of meat, that's a lot of protein. And it's really key to how
So just to restate what you said, because I just got a message saying that they can't hear. So you said that meat, like a high protein meal, will interfere with medications?
Yes, the high protein meal is what is going to take away the effectiveness of the carbidopa levodopa. So that's why they say you should take the medicine. If you have eaten your dinner, then you should take it an hour and a half after you've eaten, or you should take it about an hour or half an hour before you eat. Then there's no competition with getting into the brains.
So protein is absorbed the same way that carbidopa levodopa is absorbed. So that's why a lot of people like to take it on an empty gut. That way, it's more effective quickly, right? Some people are more sensitive to it than others. Some, you want to have a redistribution of protein, take more of the protein later in the evening. That way, if you feel like you're being impacted by what you eat, it's great to reach out to a dietitian to, determine when you should have protein in the time period before and after a meal. She can help you with that.
This is interesting because my husband is a veteran, Parkinson's service connected, and we haven't been told that. So he is a Parkinson's neurologist. So it's interesting. I have a question on that. I'm on several Parkinson's. This is on a veterans with Parkinson's. It says, anyone else have the DA, capital T, SCAN to confirm diagnosis? What is that? Is it a different form of CAT scan?
It's different. It's a scan. I don't know how to describe it actually. It's called DAT scan. It's what they use for determining whether or not you have Parkinson's. If they're not sure if that what you have is Parkinson's, they send you to that scan. That's a scanning to tell you the results, and then they determine from the results whether or not that's Parkinsonianism or Parkinson's.
How many people have had that in this room?
What is scanned? What part of the body is scanned in the DAT scan?
I don't know. I read this last night. It was the first time I've ever heard of it. I just know that he's a veteran and they handle everything. We've had tests out in the zoo and they all come back, yep, Parkinson's, and then when we were, the doctor had some paperwork filed that declared him 100% permanently disabled because of his his Parkinson's. He hasn't driven. In fact, actually, he quit driving before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. We're looking that he probably had Parkinson's back around 2007. And it was 2019 before he was diagnosed. So with that, I'm here to learn. I'm picking up bits and pieces, but that particular item, I said, oh, I'll go tomorrow night and ask.
That's perfect.
Neil, what symptoms was he exhibiting before he was diagnosed?
Several. He reached the point where he couldn't climb stairs. He was falling all the time. He fell out of a car. He couldn't remember, with our grand marquee, he would have to hold the door and the B pillar to get out, but then he would fall and he actually fell backwards going up our driveway. And then in our Tahoe, he couldn't remember because of the Tahoe is a taller SUV, you have to step onto the running board to get in, and he couldn't get his legs to go, and his shins looked like hamburger meat from constantly falling, going upstairs. So that was probably the final straw that the VA said.
Does he have the tremors?
Oh, yes.
See, now my husband does not have tremors.
He has tremors in all of his extremities. And he has it both in the arm here and in the upper arm. And he no longer is able to use plastic silverware. I have the handicap silverware. He's not ready to use it, but I use heavier weight and carry on. I carry silverware, straws. He has a little briefcase, and I carry everything he needs when we travel, so we don't have to deal with it. It's difficult when he takes me up and his plate sliding.
Let's go back on what you just described. So in 2007, you remember some of the first symptoms. And it was 2019 and he was diagnosed.
Yes.
So what went wrong here? That doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right
In
at all.
2008, we went to a neurologist who, quote, knew about Parkinson's, and he tested my husband and he said, you don't have Parkinson's. So we went from 2008 to 2019. Now, 2008 was a civilian doctor, 2019 is a VA doctor. So, when a doctor says, nope, you don't have it, and doesn't do any real, looking back, he did zero testing other than the straight pin in the legs, and walk down the walkway and hallway and walk back, and said, nope, you don't have Parkinson's. So you think, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Now I'm thinking, he didn't know what he was talking about, but that's my personal. So I'm grateful for the VA. I know a lot of people are against them, and I understand that. But the veterans who have a support system, a support person, fares a lot better than those that don't, because it is a full-time job to stay behind appointments and medications. Our system is, he has a box for the morning, a different box for his afternoon meds, and a different one for his nighttime, and they're different colors. And he can take, well, I'm even having to help him do that now, but for the most part, if he was sitting beside me, you wouldn't know he was sitting beside me because he doesn't talk a lot. And now, yeah, we've had at that time is, so.
Okay,
I can point out something that I found out today, and I won't share who shared it with me unless the person wants to. But those, for talking about VA and Eisenhower, did everyone know that Dr. Morgan rounds there? And okay,
That's where my husband sees Dr. Morgan, he's at the VA.
And my, and our doctor.
oh, I thought it,
no,
okay,
this is
the VA.
on 15th Street.
Okay, I had no idea that
Our Parkinson's doctor is under Dr. Morgan, and Dr. Morgan directs a lot of what goes on.
okay,
He's at the VA.
at the VA.
Once a week on Wednesdays.
I thought that was very interesting. I was not aware of that. So those of you that don't know that, other than myself, I guess.
That scan is a tool used to confirm the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. It's a specific type of single photon emission computed tomography imaging technique that helps visualize dopamine transporters level in the brain. There's a brief description of what that's.
Yeah, and so I think a DAT scan can be used to, it cannot be used to rule out Parkinson's. So if you test negative on it, that doesn't mean you don't have it. If you test positive on it, then there's a likely effect that you do have it. The one thing I wanted to say, Bucky just said that her husband doesn't have tremors and your husband does have tremors. The one thing that we know about Parkinson's is everybody is totally different, totally different. What works for one person is not going to work for another. The symptoms in one person are going to be totally different for somebody else. You're not going to find two people that are alike, which can make it confusing, you know, when you're trying to talk to other caregivers or figure out what works for one. But that's all Parkinson's is.
John
totally
was
different.
diagnosed in 1995. And the way he was diagnosed, his little pinky was weak. And that was all the symptoms he had till we moved into Brandon Wild in 2019. He never had any other training. So it just shows you how different people are.
It's surprising that you got it, that you caught it just with that, because I've heard from multiple people, you know, even in this group, that it went on for 5-6 years of symptoms that they had no idea were actually symptoms of Parkinson's. I mean, you know, as you age, I think everyone, you know, you pick up little tics and things that you do that you didn't do before, but nobody thinks that it's Parkinson's until it's significant enough that you said, okay, so something's really going on. But I can't believe that you caught it with just the pinky tremor.
There was a very good doctor at the AU Medical College of Georgia, his name was Dr. Senti, who retired. And he did some other tests, and John was lethargic and tired at times. So he did the right diagnosis.
That's impressive. Well, and I think was the founding doctor of this group. So 30 years ago, here we are, 30 plus now, I guess.
I said top, you know, up there. But I know that I found out there were a lot of things that are symptoms of Parkinson's. Small handwriting, that's how they really found it. My mother picked it up, the micro writing. You don't swing your arms the way that you normally get. There's a lot of things that you would never attribute to Parkinson's. So it's really important to find out all those things and be able to identify them so that you're aware, especially for your children too. We've had several of our Parkinson's members whose children now have Parkinson's, and they've been able to identify it earlier because of knowing what to look out for.
My husband's handwriting had become a line and up and down, and that was it. And through his physical therapy at the VA, she was talking about the big program, and I was reading about the handwriting. So I purchased the dollar store puzzle books and whatever, and they're all different sizes. And he has to make the letter the size of the block. So if it's a big block, he's got to make a big ad. And if he makes a little one, he has to use a little one. And he actually signed his name about 2 weeks ago. And it looked back like, wasn't as big as it used to be, but it was big enough that you could actually read his, but he does it he started out 15 minutes once a day, and now he's doing it all day long. While he's watching TV or working puzzles in the newspaper, Jeopardy. We watch Jeopardy every night, and he tries to answer. Now he doesn't say what is, but he brings up, and I'm really impressed some nights that he can beat them. Just go to the dollar store and get the puzzle books, whether it's Sudoku or word search or crossword puzzles. And he uses what's called a big soft touch pen because it writes with no pressure. And they come in colors. And we accidentally found that I brought a half a dozen pens. And he said, I can't make it body. I can't. And when we found this one by accident, he does it. So yes, but he's
Where did you find that?
The big soft pen.
big, B-I-C.
Big soft pen.
Soft touch pen, I think you said. So it's
Soft touch.
so it's a Bic, for those that maybe can't hear, it's a Bic soft touch pen.
And it comes in different colors, red, pink, green, and I buy them at the office supply store, Staples, and Home Depot. I may have one.
They do make specific pens designed for people with Parkinson's.
But the ultimate question is, though, how expensive are they?
This is like $4 or $5 for 10 or 12 of them.
Yeah, I like that in the dollar store word searches. Especially if he's doing it all day long. I bet you go through word searches like crazy.
I spend about $20 a month at the dollar store, and to me, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Oh, 100%.
It'll now be 25 because we call it the $1.25 store.
That is true. But you know what? As long as it works his brain and he keeps going, I'm okay with it.
There's also a pen it's a pen that your finger actually leans down on it so that you can grip it better. I know they used to have those at Walgreens, and Mom used to use those too because she could get a better grip.
Does anybody else have any tips or tricks about things, the workarounds that they've found with issues they've encountered? I don't know if everyone here has seen, earlier this year, we had someone come talking about gadgets for Parkinson's. And there was some interesting stuff, but I thought what was even more unique is some of the workarounds that just everyone in the room has, oh, well, yeah, to put on, help me put on my shirt, I actually use this, or pull up zippers, I actually use this. Does anybody have any secrets?
I have a button assist that I wish I brought it. It loops in to the button and then you pull it through to the button through the button hole. I found it on Amazon. I don't know what the name of it is. I wish I did.
It's just called a button hook.
Is that right?
Fancy.
Oh, yeah, and it's very cheap, so that's what I use for, if I'm putting on a shirt with lots of buttons.
Okay.
And the other thing that I heard from somebody else that was helpful was these, the clamps that we use for chips and stuff. They use that to hold up their pants or something like that, so that it doesn't fall down when you go to the bathroom in public.
Oh.
The
end of your shirt to the
Yeah.
top of your pants.
That's it, that's
So that your pants don't go all the way to the floor.
it. Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I heard, yeah.
Have you tried it?
No, I always keep the clip around just in case.
Just-
And we'll know the clips, how to use the clip, right?
just got one on hand.
Actually, another workaround that she uses, of course, she was born and raised using chopsticks, all right? But what happens is when she's eating with a fork or a spoon, a lot of times it's falling off, it's ending up on the table or whatever. So she'll ask for a pair of chopsticks, and she's able to make use of that. And that's maybe unique for her, but it does make a big difference for her to be able to grab things rather than just use one instrument. You're actually using two. It's actually a way to grip things.
Yeah.
Pretty handy.
Pick another topic.
Yeah, so another one of my favorite struggles of this is we like to travel. And I don't know how many people here would enjoy traveling. We don't want to let Parkinson's, we've always enjoyed traveling forever. And we don't want to let Parkinson's get in the way of that. So we've had to just talk about workarounds. There's a lot of workarounds. And one of the biggest workarounds, I'm embarrassed to say, is finding washrooms when you're on the road. And we did an 8,000-mile road trip back October, November, December, just last year. During probably some of the worst parts of COVID, actually, especially toward the end when Omicron came in. But anyway, the bathrooms are, we've found a few tricks. So I guess even if you don't take a long road trip, just a short road trip, sometimes it can become an issue. And all of a sudden, whoa, gotta stop, and go someplace. We always look for what we call the onesies. All right, when you go to Starbucks, for example, you go into a bathroom and lock it. So I can go in with her and it's fine. Subway, usually it's a small strip center restaurant where you go in and they've got onesies, all right? So you go in, you lock the door. So there's a lot of those kinds of places. When you stop at roadside, rest areas along the interstates, which of course we do a lot of that because we're on the interstates most of the time. I would say 30–40% of the rest stops have single bathrooms for handicapped or for family. I guess they call them family bathrooms. But the others don't. So what happens is because we were traveling during the day, we didn't want to travel at night. So we traveled during the day. There's usually somebody working at those places who can ask, hey, could you cut off or could you close off a section of the ladies' room where we can go in and do that? And they say, yeah, sure, no problem. So usually that works. It's a little more challenging, but it does work. So there's a lot of those kind of things that we kind of figured out. We also, interestingly enough, brought a portable potty with us, which we never used, by the way. But you know, when things get desperate, you know, you do desperate times, desperate measures, and all that stuff. So I don't know what experiences other people have had. Those are some struggles we went through just kind of on the road.
I want to say thank you because we do travel and go to Alabama about once a month, every other month to take our grandchildren to see their biological father. Court order mandated, so we don't have a choice in the subject. But he has his seat and he has his things that he does. But restrooms are a bit of a challenge. So I have an 8-year-old grandson, so he'll go in and make sure Poppy's okay. And so that's what I'm interested in is little tips and tricks to travel because we have another couple where his wife has Parkinson's and they live 12 hours away. And I have made that 12-hour trip up and back by myself. Well, I say by myself, doing all the driving. So I'm interested in that.
Drive-through, hate to say it.
Fast food?
Fast food, yeah, we don't like fast food and you will pay a price when you do a lot of that, but sometimes drive-through is the answer, because going into a restaurant, getting seated, of course, during COVID, you got all the extra challenges of COVID and all that. Hopefully now that'll become less of an issue, but we'll see. But very often on the road, so you find the best drive-through kind of food you can find, and that's a way to, just reduce the agony of having to get out and do all these other activities.
With COVID, a lot of the places now have drive up too.
Like more and more places are offering just like drive up, and that way you don't have to get out of the car. If you have a cell phone, you might be able to look it up just to see if you don't like drive-through foods and such.
Yeah, Panera is a big one that does that. Like,
Curbside pickup and everything.
Yeah, well, the difference is, yeah, we're here during COVID, in fact, it did, and there we drive up. But when you're on the road, half the time we don't know where we're gonna stop or when we're gonna stop, and then all of a sudden you're there. Oh, we gotta stop now. So you have to find something, and usually you don't have a whole lot of time. So your point is well taken, because certainly if you're in a fixed location, that's a good way to go.
Another good place to stop is Dollar General. They have a onesie. I know that from my home health days. There's Dollar Generals everywhere.
does anybody else have any travel tips? Or I know that we haven't really talked about planes, but any flying tips? I know that can be a bit more difficult.
My tip for flying is to notify them ahead of time and get a wheelchair. If you get a wheelchair, then they're gonna escort you from gate to gate, which cuts out on a lot of stress and everything. That's the big tip I have.
And I think also making sure the person stays active.
Oh,
Because if you're cramped up and you don't move your legs, it can be really bad when you go to get up. So encourage them to do the ankle pumps and that kind of stuff.
Mine won't travel on plane.
Does he say what?
You can't stand the people and being in a closed situation. And so if we can't drive, or if I can't drive, we're not going.
Yeah, I would think a plane would be very stimulating, overstimulating, in a small environment.
He deals with a lot of stress. Everything is stressful for him. I don't know if anybody else with Parkinson's has stress, so he has a lot of stress, anxiety, being late. This is gonna happen, that's gonna happen.
Do you find that his anxiety, when he has those moments of, very high anxiety, that you notice more symptoms pop up of Parkinson's?
And anxiety itself is a symptom of Parkinson's. That has to do with the chemicals in the brain. So, and the anxiety can increase the stress, and then it becomes a big. Yes, your symptoms get worse. It's big. So.
I know someone who I spoke to that has Parkinson's who shared about freezing. And this person said that it's like an endless cycle for them, that when they get anxious, their freezing increases. And then the increased freezing, especially in groups of people, causes them to get more stressed. So they've almost had to talk themselves off a cliff basically every time. Like, you're fine. No one's, getting anxious about you. Just take that next step. And that's when I think I'm going to lose the name, Kathleen, you have to help me. We talked about it, U-step. That U-step laser, as just, you wouldn't think that a laser line would do anything for you, but it from what I've heard of those that use it, obviously, I don't have experience, but they say that it focuses your mind on stepping over that line, and just that is enough to get you going again. So that's a big trick. I've heard quite a few people have used that.
I have maybe a question for the two of you. When you're talking about anxiety, the doctors are aware of that They're anti-anxiety medications. Is that something, do you find that a lot of your people that have Parkinson's are also taking antidepressants, anti-anxiety?
Yes, so we do have some of our patients or residents that do take those. Some, you gotta be careful though, that it's prescribed by the neurologist. Because some of the anti-anxiety and antidepressants are contraindicated for Parkinson's. So you just gotta make sure it's the neurologist that prescribes it.
I know from experience with those two, every single one has massive side effects. And normally, like a lot of the times, it's not even the side effects that you're told about. I was on a medication to help me sleep, which is trazodone. I mean, it's very common. I had like the worst dry mouth ever, to the point where like sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night, like unable to talk or breathe because everything had like just dried together. So I think that's definitely something you have to be careful of.
Yeah, and a lot of times with anxiety, large crowds, like you said, small places and large crowds. Suggestions that we make for those kinds of things are to arrive early before the crowd so that you're kind of comfortable in your environment ahead of time. I just lost my train of thought. Sit like against the wall, close to the door, so that if you start to feel really anxious, you can exit quietly without having to feel like you made a scene. Because a lot of times if a person feels like the attention's on them, then that increases the stress. And that increases the, I'm not able to get around quite so good.
So we talked about headphones earlier. So I have the, not the earbuds, but the Apple AirPod Pros with noise canceling. And they were a couple $100. The noise canceling on these is amazing. They're small. And when I fly, I get very anxious too, but just because, sorry everyone, it connected to them. I get very anxious when I fly too. It's not because of Parkinson's or anything, but these save my life. Even when I'm just stressed out in a situation, I just, surrounded by people, I'm not a crowd person, I'll pop them in. Even if I don't have music on, they can pretty much cancel the whole room. So, I mean, they're a godsend. I can't swear by them enough. And if you have any sort of hearing impairment, the noise canceling on these connected to a cell phone, and I've never worn hearing aids, but in my mind, it is just as good as a hearing aid because it cuts everything out.
And I wonder too, the bulkhead, I know for my husband, we've got such long legs, we need that extra, but you don't have anybody right in front of you and you have extra room. That also might be helpful. And you can often request that if it's not taken yet. That might be a good alternative too. And also what's in front of you is first class and it's not as
Not that I need one. Another thing that's always going on, I guess, is another part of our life that we don't want to give up. We enjoy going to see a concert once in a while, or some venue with performing arts. But you have to keep some things in mind. And for example, we're gonna go see something fairly coming up soon. And I'm going to use a wheelchair because that works out well. And they usually have a little section, typically in the back of the orchestra section, which is the main floor, where you can roll the wheelchair up, and it's the very back row, essentially. And you can get chairs next to somebody that has a wheelchair. So basically, you can get in easily and you can get out easily. And that's really the hard part. Before we thought of wheelchairs, getting her out of a crowded theater was a nightmare. And I demanded that she just wait until everybody's out. And she said, oh, we can go. And then we tried to go, and it was terrible. So, but a wheelchair, of course, makes that much easier. And they have typical theaters. They have a place for that sort of thing, wheeling a chair in there. And you can still see and hear, and everything is fine. So, it gives you the option of still seeing concerts and all that sort of thing.
Something I want to mention too about the wheelchairs, just because we run into it here at Brandon Wild, a lot of people don't realize that the majority of the cost for power wheelchairs, number one, they collapse now into like nothing. And a lot of the times, especially with like a Parkinson's diagnosis or something, you can get that covered by Medicare almost entirely. So now with a therapist in the room, I know don't use it 100% of the time because that's not going to help you. But in situations like that, or when you're traveling or something and you need to get around and you're worried about, I mean, we all know like curbs and everything. It seems like every new surface is a different height or there's a rut in it that you're going to trip over. You know, I think that that's definitely something to consider, especially since they collapse. I mean, I saw one that just folds itself right up with a remote control and it was ridiculous.
Now, we have, one that we rent them when we go down to Orlando, for my husband, and, because he can't get around to do anything. And, so we have a nephrotic kidney conference that we're going to the end of April because we have a granddaughter who has a nephrotic syndrome. And so I'm going down to learn about taking care of her, and she has 2 forms of epilepsy. So at some point, I'm going to some kind of conference to learn about that. So sorry, that's tackle time. That's a granddaughter's alarm for her medicine, but she takes it at 7 A and 7 P. But anyway, so we do rent scooters when we're in Orlando to go to Disney or anywhere that we want to travel, so that he is not stuck in a hotel room. Because he walks with a cane, a 4-legged cane. So.
Do you run when you get there or?
Yes. No, at some point, we've been told the VA will give it to us, but he should probably use his rollator all the time, but he uses my arm and a cane. So if you're not ready for the rollator, and
I do have a school, I do have a walker, and I do have to do 2 walker. So that's what I call myself, we go into our home.
that's how he is. He's not ready. In fact, if you look at my truck right now.
Dana.
His walker's in my truck.
We are at 7 o'clock, so I just want to let everyone know, feel free to take off. I apologize. So I just got a text from someone. Normally I don't check my phone and everything, but people are texting me and messaging and everything. But I am going to end this right now. However, feel free to mingle around if that's okay. Does anybody have anything they want to add before?
Were there any other questions that were sent in?
We did have a couple. One was, how often do you see a neurologist? You know, they said they see one, you know, twice a year, but is that enough? I was gonna say, that's what I've heard. You know, I think even neurologists say you need to see them more, but
Right, it's hard to get in with a neurologist, but if you start having symptoms, especially non-motor symptoms that are new or exacerbated, you need to try to at least contact and talk to somebody.
does anyone, a sleep question was brought up. Does anyone have any tips or tricks for sleeping? This individual says they're up multiple times a night going to the bathroom. They only get a couple hours of rest. Does anyone have a bedtime routine or anything that helps them?
My husband takes melatonin at 8 o'clock and start out at 3, but you can go up to 10, we're at 6, but he takes melatonin every night. And it works.
Does he find he's groggy from that?
No,
Okay.
We found, because we're here at Brandon, we walk after supper. walking is good. And then just relax, you know. Try and stay pretty much on schedule, going to bed at the time.
So for those joining us on Zoom and Facebook, Hibby just said that walking after supper and really staying on the same schedule has helped them, not only with medications, but with activities.
Well, and going to bed at the same time every night and trying to get up at the same time every morning.
And this is not a big walk, this is just a walk, a good walk, I mean,
A stroll.
a stroll, yeah, stroll in the park, stroll.
Do you agree with that? I'd say it's a big walk.
We had a travel question that was submitted, a traveling question, if not already asked. I take a daily nap around 1 o'clock. I am planning some trips that require driving all day or riding in a car all day. Any suggestions on dealing with the lack of nap when traveling?
I mean,
Hold on 1 second. Let's get you the mics. I don't have to repeat it again.
all right, so we took this 8,000 mile road trip. And I'm the only driver. So when I got tired, I pulled into a rest stop, turned everything off, maybe opened the window a little bit for air, and took a nap. And very often, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 at the most, but 10 to 15 minutes was usually enough. I just instantly fall asleep and I was really tired. So I think these little rest stops are a good place to take a nap. If you're driving by yourself, you absolutely do not want to drive alone. That's the worst possible thing you can do. Don't force it. Stop at those rest stops, take a break, get a drink, do something, but take a nap.
Anybody else? Okay. The last question is about attitude. So, does anyone have it kind of like a fight it attitude to fight Parkinson's? Or do they consider it an inconvenience or a life changer or just kind of an accept it? Does that make sense? That was a lot, I know. Kind of what's your feeling about Parkinson's? How do you approach it?
It was hard to accept it at the beginning. And it was easy to say, I'm gonna fight it, I'm gonna win. But then when time goes on, you don't win. You just accept it and then you just have to do the best you can. Right now, all I do is exercise as much as I can. And I go down there, I do the Tai Chi and I do the yoga and I do and then also my voice is going. So I do the voice exercises at home in the, on the Zoom Parkinson Place. They had a voice thing today and on Monday, on Tuesday, Thursday, the Parkinson Foundation has a voice that was very helpful. So I just do all that I can to maintain what I have before I lose more. So I think you cannot fight it. It's not going to get any better right now. As of we know right now, there are no cure for it. There's no medicine for it. So we just keep hoping and read up about it. It's like when I read about the Michael J. Fox thing, the fact that they have this new information about hoping to find a medicine that targets the opposite nuclide that's causing the Parkinson's. I was very hopeful. I hope we can find something to do it right away, but then of course it takes years. But the attitude is you cannot fight it. It is inconvenient and it is embarrassing sometimes. But then I figure that whatever Dick does for me, he's setting a role model for somebody else who might run into this in the future. Because it's not fair to him, but then he's accepted it to that he has to take care of me in situations that is not normal, that he normally doesn't have to do anything about. But
Kathleen, I would disagree. I think you are a fighter. And I think you epitomize that you have Parkinson's, but you are not Parkinson's. And I think that you keep going at it, and it is Dick's journey as well. But you guys don't let it own you. You still do the activities while you have to modify how you do your activities. You still live your life. you still live your life.
You just traveled 8,000 miles.
Maybe. But you're fired.
Yeah, I agree.
Accept that if you accepted it and fight, you wouldn't be doing exercise classes every single day.
I'm affected by what I have, and it's inconvenient and it's embarrassing and it's a pain in the neck sometimes, and I'm holding it up the line at the doorway. But then in the meantime, it's what I have to do.
You're doing a lot for others.
You're an inspiration. Yes.
And also, one thing I want to speak about you, and you kind of alluded to it, you go above and beyond in finding the next exercise that you're going to do. You're on Brandon Wild's Zoom, and you're on Parkinson's place, and you're looking wherever you can to find your own path and your own way. So yeah, you're definitely a fighter.
And she encourages others.
And
'cause
she
I don't know how many times she sent me emails trying to encourage us to come to the meetings and do that. Well, we're not ready. We're not
And I'll say as well, I mean, the reason that I'm sitting here is because of y'all. So
Sorry.
yeah, and those two as well. We wouldn't be having a meeting right here at the club. We wouldn't have resumed Zoom meetings probably, honestly. We probably would have done, you know, Dick and I, those on Zoom, y'all don't know this. We've been talking to support groups throughout the Southeast. The number of support groups that have folded because of COVID are in the tens of 20s throughout the United States. They didn't have interest because no one was engaging those with PD. They didn't have the backbone of a board, of a organization to help keep it driving and thriving and moving forward. So, you know, that largely is a testament to you getting us involved. I mean, the going online situation, you know, you got me involved to help with that because you needed someone other than Nathan with technology experience to get that moving forward with the walk and then with online meetings. So
That's what kept it going.
this isn't about me, this is about you. On that note, thank you everyone for coming out. I'm going to switch this around so that they're not looking at the back of my head. Thank you everyone online. Don't mind my neighbor tag. I can't find my support group one. And thank you everyone for coming here. I really appreciate you all coming out. I want to say for everyone next week, oh, I think we have a comment chat. Thank you for allowing me to participate in the Zoom session. It was difficult to hear except for the host, but since I cannot attend in person. Well, we will solve that problem, I promise. We got a new camera so that we can see everyone. So next week, or next month, I'm not in my right mind today, we will be meeting in the Georgia room at Brandon Wild. So for those of you that are here in person, you're going to come in the main entrance like you came in and hold to the right, follow the signs up to the main entrance. There'll be a concierge inside the door that'll direct you to the Georgia room. Our lovely Dana over here will be shuttling in a golf cart. So even if you have to park far away, just get out of your car. You can start walking or just stay there and she'll pick you up. We have a 6-person golf cart. And we'll have signs indicating kind of the area that's best to park if you can't find a spot. So please do come join us. We will resume food and having a meal next month. So that's something else that's very positive. So thank you everyone for being here in person. Thank you everyone for being here online. And thank you for those that watch in the future. So have a great night.